13 ACT1. Girl makes boy want her. Want to come with me to an artist reception at the Chester Springs studio next Monday night? Arya's mother, Ella, asked. It was Thursday morning, and Ella was sitting across from Arya at the breakfast table, doing the New York Times crossword puzzle with a leaky black pen and eating a bowl of Cheerios. She had just returned to her part-time job at the Davis Contemporary Art Gallery on Rosewood's main drag, and she was on the mailing list for all the benefits. "Isn't Dad going to go with you?" Arya asked. Her mom pursed her lips together. "He has a lot of work to do for his classes." "Oh." Arya picked at a loose strand of wool on the fingerless glove she'd knitted during a long train ride to Greece. Was that suspicion? She detected in her mom's voice. Arya always worried Ella would find out about Meredith and never forgive her for keeping the secret. Arya squeezed her eyes closed. "You're not thinking about it," she thought. She poured some grapefruit juice into a glass. "Ella," she asked, "I need some love advice." "Love advice?" her mother teased, securing her jet black bun with a takeout chopstick that had been lying on the table. "Yeah," Arya said. "I like this guy, but he's kind of unattainable. I'm out of ideas on how to convince him he should like me." "Be yourself," Ella said. Arya groaned. "I've tried that. Go out with an attainable boy. Then." Arya rolled her eyes. "Are you going to help or not?" "Oh, someone sensitive," Ella smiled, then snapped her fingers. "I just read this study in the paper." She held up the Times. It was a survey about what men find most attractive in women. You know what was the number one thing? Intelligence. "Here, let me find it for you." She riffled through the paper and handed the page to Arya. "Arya likes a guy." Mike swept into the kitchen and grabbed a glazed donut from the box on the island. "No," Arya quickly responded. "Well, someone likes you," Mike said. "Gross as that is." He made a barfing sound. "Who?" Ella asked in an excited voice. "Noel Kahn," Mike answered, talking with a huge, chewed-up bite of donut in his mouth. "He asked about you at lacrosse practice." "Noel Kahn," Ella echoed, looking back and forth from Mike to Arya. "Which one is he? Was he here 3 years ago? Do I know him?" Arya groaned and rolled her eyes. "He's nobody." "Nobody." Mike sounded disgusted. "He's like the coolest guy in your grade." "Whatever," Arya said, kissing her mother on the top of her head. She headed to the hallway, staring at the newspaper clipping in her hands. "So men liked brains? Well, Icelandic Arya could certainly be brainy. Why don't you like Noel Kahn?" Mike's voice made Arya jump. He stood a few feet away from Arya with a carton of orange juice in his hand. "He's the man," Arya groaned. "If you like him so much, why don't you go out with him?" Mike drank straight from the carton, wiped his mouth, and stared at her. "You've been acting freaky. Are you high? Can I have some if you are?" Arya snorted. In Iceland, Mike had been constantly trying to score drugs and freaked when some guys at the harbor sold him a dime bag of pot. The stuff turned out to be skunky, but Mike proudly smoked it anyway. Mike started stroking his chin. "I think I know why you're acting freaky." Arya turned back to the closet. "You're full of crap." "You think so?" Mike answered. "I don't. And you know what? I'm going to find out if my suspicions are true. Good luck, Sherlock." Arya pulled at her jacket. Even though she knew Mike was probably full of shit, she hoped he hadn't noticed the quiver in her voice. As the other kids filed into English, most of the boys sporting a few days' growth of stubble and most of the girls in copycat Mona and Hannah platform sandals and charm bracelets, Arya reviewed her just-scrawled stack of note cards. Today, they had to give an oral report about a play called Waiting for Godot. Arya adored oral reports. She had the perfect, sexy, gravelly voice for them, and she happened to know the play really well. Once, she'd spent a whole Sunday in a Reykjavik bar, vehemently arguing with an Adrian Brody look-alike about its theme. Between swilling delicious apple vodka martinis and playing footsie with him under the table, that is. So not only was this an excellent day to become Uber student, it was also a great opportunity to show everyone how cool Icelandic Arya was. Ezra strolled in, looking rumpled, bookish, and completely edible, and clapped his hands. "Okay, class," he said. "We have a lot of stuff to get through today. Quiet down." Hannah Marin turned around and smirked at Arya. "What kind of underwear do you think he's wearing?" Arya smiled blandly. "Striped cotton boxers, of course," but snapped her attention back to Ezra. "All right." Ezra walked to the chalkboard. "Everyone did the reading, right? Everyone has a report? Who wants to go first?" Arya's hand shot up. Ezra nodded at her. She walked to the podium at the front of the room, arranged her black hair around her shoulders so that it looked extra gorgeous, and made sure that her chunky coral necklace wasn't caught in the collar of her shirt. Quickly, she reread the first few scene-setting sentences on her index cards. "Last year, I attended a performance of Waiting for Godot in Paris," she began. She noticed Ezra raise his eyebrow just the tiniest bit. It was a small theater off the Seine, and the air smelled like the cheese brioche baking next door. She paused. Picture the scene. A huge line of people waiting to go in. A woman toting her two little white poodles. The Eiffel Tower in the distance. She briefly looked up. Everyone seemed so transfixed. I could feel the energy, the excitement, the passion in the air. And it wasn't just the beer they were selling to everyone. Even my little brother, she added. Nice. Noel Kahn interjected. Arya smiled. The seats were very velvety and purple, and smelled like this type of butter in France that's sweeter than American butter. It's what makes the pastries so delicious. Arya, Ezra said. It's the kind of butter that even makes escargot taste good. Arya stopped. Ezra leaned against the chalkboard with his arms crossed over his rosewood blazer. Yes, she smiled. I have to stop you, but I'm not even halfway done. Well, I need less about velvet seats and pastries and more about the play itself. The class snickered. Arya shuffled back to her seat and sat down. Didn't he know she was creating ambience? Noel Kahn raised his hand. Noel, Ezra asked. You want to go next? No, Noel said. The class laughed. I just wanted to say I thought Arya's report was good. I liked it. Thanks, Arya said quietly. Noel swiveled around. Is there really no drinking age? Not really. I might go with my family to Italy this winter. Italy's amazing. You're going to love it. Are you two through? Ezra asked. He shot Noel an exasperated look. Arya dug her hot pink nails into the wood grain of her desk. Noel turned back to her again. Did they have absinthe? He whispered. She nodded. Amazed Noel had even heard of absinthe. Mr. Kahn, Ezra interrupted sternly. A little too sternly. That's enough. Was this jealousy she detected? Damn. Hannah twisted around. What crawled up his ass? Arya stifled a giggle. It seemed to her like a certain Uber student was making a certain teacher a little twitchy. Ezra called on Devon Arliss next and she started her speech. As Ezra turned to the side and put his finger on his chin, listening, Arya throbbed. She wanted him so badly it made her whole body buzz. No, wait, that was just her cell phone, which was nestled in her oversized lime green tote next to her foot. The thing kept buzzing. Arya slowly reached down and pulled it out. One new text message. Arya. Maybe he fools around with students all the time. A lot of teachers do. Just ask your dad. Arya quickly snapped her cell phone shut. But then she opened it and read the message again. And again. As she did, the little hairs on her arms stood straight up. No one in the room had their phones out. Not Hannah. Not Noel. Nobody. And no one was looking at her, either. She even looked up on the ceiling and out the classroom door. But nothing seemed out of place. Everything was quiet and still. This can't be happening, Arya whispered. The only person who knew about Arya's dad was Allison. And she'd sworn on her grave she wouldn't tell a soul. Was she back? "14 That'll teach you to Google stock when you're supposed to be studying." During her free period Thursday afternoon, Spencer strode into the Rosewood Day reading room. With its ceiling-high stacks of reference books, giant pedestal globe in the corner, and Steinered glass window on the far wall, it was her favorite place on campus. She stood in the middle of the empty room, closed her eyes, and inhaled the old, leather-bound book smell. Everything had gone her way today. The unusual cold snap had allowed her to wear her brand new Marc Jacobs pale blue wool coat. The Rosewood Day Cafe barista had made her a perfect double scheme latte. She'd just aced a French oral exam, and tonight she would be moving into the barn, while Melissa had to sleep in her old, cramped bedroom. Despite all that, an uneasy haze hung over her. It was a cross between a bothersome feeling she sometimes had when she'd forgotten to do something and the sense that someone was, well, watching her. It was obvious why she was feeling so off. That creepy covet email, the flash of blonde hair in Ollie's old window, the fact that only Ollie knew about Ian. Trying to shake it off, she sat down at the computer, adjusted the waistband of her navy blue Walford patterned stockings, and logged on to the internet. She began research for her upcoming AP Bio project, but after scrolling through a list of Google results, she typed Ren Kim into the search engine. Trolling through the results, she stifled a giggle. On a site called Mill Hill School, London, there was a photo of a longer-haired Ren standing next to a Bunsen burner and a bunch of test tubes. Another link was to Oxford University's Corpus Christi College student portal. There was a photo of Ren looking gorgeous in Shakespearean garb, holding a skull. She hadn't known Ren was into drama. As she tried to magnify the photo to check out the fit of his tights, someone tapped her on the shoulder. "That your boyfriend?" Spencer jumped, knocking her crystal-studded sidekick cell phone to the floor. Andrew Campbell grinned awkwardly behind her. She quickly closed the window. Of course not. Andrew bent down to pick up her sidekick, pushing a lock of straight, shoulder-length hair out of his eyes. Spencer noticed that he might actually have a chance at being cute if he cut off that lion's mane. Oops, he said, handing the sidekick back to her. I think a jewel thing fell off. Spencer grabbed it from him. You scared me. Sorry about that. Andrew smiled. So your boyfriend's an actor. I said he wasn't my boyfriend. Andrew stepped back. Sorry. Just making conversation. Spencer eyed him suspiciously. Anyway, Andrew went on, hefting his North Face backpack higher on his shoulder. I was wondering, you going to Noel's tomorrow? I could give you a ride. Spencer looked at him blankly and then remembered. Noel Kahn's field party. She'd gone to last year's. Kids did beer funnels. And practically every girl cheated on her boyfriend. This year would be more of the same. And what? Andrew seriously thought she'd ride with him in his Mini? Would they both even fit? Doubt it, she said. Andrew's face fell. Yeah, I guess you're probably kind of busy. Spencer furrowed her brow. What's that supposed to mean? Andrew shrugged. You seem to have a lot going on. Your sister's home, right? Spencer leaned back in her chair and drew her bottom lip into her mouth. Yeah, she just got home last night. How'd you know the? She stopped. Wait a second. Andrew drove his Mini up and down her street all the time. She'd seen him just yesterday, when she was at the mailbox getting her test scores. She swallowed hard. Now that she thought about it, she might have seen his black Mini drive by the day she and Ren were in the hot tub together. He must have been driving it up and down her street a lot to notice Melissa was home. What if Andrew was the... one skulking around spying on her? What if Andrew wrote that creepy covet email? Andrew was so competitive it seemed possible. Wouldn't sending threatening messages be a good way to throw someone off her game and make it easier to be re-elected as next year's class president? Or, even better, beat out his competition for valedictorian? And the long hair. Maybe she'd seen him in Ollie's old window? Unbelievable. Spencer stared at Andrew incredulously. Is something wrong? Andrew asked, looking concerned. I have to go. She gathered up her books and walked out of the reading room. Wait, Andrew called. Spencer kept going, but as she pushed through the library doors, she realized that she didn't feel enraged. Sure, it was bizarre that Andrew was spying on her, but if Andrew was Spencer was safe. Whatever Andrew thought he had on her, it was nothing, compared to what Allison knew. She reached the door to the Commons. Coming in at the same time was Emily Fields. Hey, Emily said. A nervous look crossed her face. Hey, Spencer answered. Emily readjusted her Nike backpack. Spencer pushed her bangs off her face. When was the last time she'd spoken to Emily? It got cold out. Huh? Emily asked. Spencer nodded. Yeah, Emily smiled in that I don't know what to say to you way. Then Tracy Reed, another swimmer, grabbed Emily's arm. When is our swimsuit money due? She asked. As Emily answered, Spencer wiped some non-existent dirt off her blazer and wondered if she could just walk away or if she had to say a formal goodbye. Then something on Emily's wrist caught her eye. Emily was still wearing her blue string bracelet from 6th grade. Allison had made them for everyone right after the accident. The Jenna thing happened. Initially, they just wanted to get Jenna's brother, Toby. It was supposed to be a prank. After the 5 of them planned it, Ollie went across the street to watch through Toby's treehouse window. And then when it happened, it did something horrible to Jenna. After the ambulance pulled away from Jenna's house, Spencer discovered something about the accident none of the other girls ever found out. Toby saw Ollie, but Ollie saw Toby doing something just as bad. He couldn't tell on her, because then she'd tell on him. Not long after, Ollie made everyone the bracelets to remind them they were best friends forever, and now that they shared a secret like this, they had to protect one another forever. Spencer waited for Ollie to tell the others that someone saw her, but she never did. When the cops questioned Spencer after Ollie went missing, they asked if Ollie had any enemies, anyone who hated her so much they might want to hurt her. Spencer said that Ollie was a popular girl, and like any popular girl, there were some girls who didn't like her, but it was just jealousy. That, of course, was a bold-faced lie. There were people who hated Ollie, and Spencer knew she should tell the police what Ollie told her about the Jenna thing, that maybe Toby wanted to hurt Ollie, but how could she tell them that without telling them why? Spencer couldn't get through a day without passing Toby and Jenna's house on her street, but they'd been sent away to boarding school and hardly ever came home, so she thought their secret was safe. They were safe from Toby, and Spencer was safe from ever having to tell her best friends what she alone knew. As Tracy Reed said goodbye, Emily turned around. She seemed surprised Spencer was still standing there. "I've got to get to class," she said. "Good to see you, though." "Bye," Spencer answered, and she and Emily exchanged one last awkward smile.